Hi, friends. Welcome back to Honoring the Journey. Leslie Neese, your host. So excited today to introduce you to not only an amazing woman, but a really good friend of mine. Shannon is just, you know what? She's one of the friends of mine who sees life so different than me. And she is actually an atheist. And she's somebody who I ask a lot of questions to. And she asked me, like, it's just been such an amazing friendship that I don't know that I could have had many years ago. So I'm introducing you today to Shannon Hunt, but there's so much more to her. She's also an author. She has written the Colony series, like the Pain Colony, the Rage Colony. I think you're working on another book, right, Shannon?
That's right. Book
Yeah.
3. I'm trying to get it done.
Woohoo! Yeah, I know it's so fun. She actually asked me some questions when she had one thought, about religion. I don't know if you're going to use that, but that was really fun, like getting into all of that with her.
Well, I
Um,
hope you enjoyed that because I'm going to be back with more questions about religion.
Yes. Oh, heck yes. It's so fun. It's so fun. Yeah, I have a background in religion and she has this scientific background. Shannon used to be in the pharmaceutical industry for about 15 years or
Yeah,
so.
15 years.
And now she is full-time writing and she's also kind of a TikTok sensation. She does this page called Midlife Shuffle where she teaches midlifers and really anybody who wants to learn how to shuffle dance. And I remember when you first started doing it, you were like, I'm never going to get this. And now look at you. You have how many followers now?
Almost half a million. Yeah.
Dang, that's
And it's been
amazing.
really great, super high engagement. And honestly, the dancing just started out to be like a fun thing that I did, but now I'm actually really, really enjoying getting other women, especially midlife women, up and moving. And people are absolutely loving it. It's
Yeah.
been very rewarding. Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. It was so fun. She started doing TikTok and she was asking me for advice. And I'm like, I was trying to help her. And now I'm just like always asking her for advice. So, how do I do this? And she helps me. So, thank you for taking off on that because it's nice to have a resource of somebody who knows what the heck they're doing. But now you'll find Shannon and Midlife Shuffle on Instagram and YouTube. If you go to TikTok, you'll find her. She's still there. It has been amazing to watch her just evolve as a dancer. Super
And
cool.
it has been quite a physical transformation too. I
Yeah,
started
yeah.
out I started out heavy and out of shape, and now I'm probably in the best shape of my life. I mean, it's got the best cardiovascular exercise I can think of.
Yeah, it really is. And you do it how many hours a day? Like
Now
2?
I'm up to about 4.
4 hours a
I
day.
know, I know.
Wow.
I'm training for an event in March, and so I'm trying to get up to the event is 9 hours, 2 days in a row, so trying to build up some stamina.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow. Well, that's so fun. And so I met Shannon and her husband, Steve. They actually came to my spin class many years ago. What, 3, 4 years ago? I don't remember.
Yeah,
4 years? I don't know. It
almost
was a
4
long
years.
time ago. And it was funny. I got this call from the owner of the studio that I teach fitness at. And she was like, the instructor can't show up. Is there any way that you could teach? I was like, okay, but I'm going to be a couple minutes late. And so I walk in and Steve and Shannon are there ready to, get their butt whooped. And I met them and we just started talking afterwards and hit it off and have been fast and very good friends ever since. It's so much fun to have you on the show and I honestly don't really know a lot of your journey. So I'm excited to honor your journey today, Shannon.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to
Yeah.
tell it.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's start with a fun little question. And I just kind of want to know somebody with let me tell you about Shannon. She has kind of a dark sense of humor. It's very funny. Sometimes she'll say something and like it'll be in a group of people who don't know her and they're like, "What the heck?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. That was just Shannon." So
Leslie always has to come to my defense. No, no, really, she's not that creepy. I
oh,
swear
no,
it's a
she's
joke.
really not. She writes horror. I mean, really, these books that you write are horror, right?
They are, yeah.
It's hilarious, like medical, kind of creepy, weird, and I think going into the religious sort of aspect, but really, really fun person. So I want to ask you a question, like, what is the most recent, and what do you like to watch on TV, and what's the most recent binge that you and Steve have gone on?
Oh, we are now in the Severance binge.
Oh.
And
Okay.
Severance, I mean, if you know the show, you know it fits my personality perfectly. It's sort of like Black Mirror. It's very dark and very creepy and just has this like vibe that just kind of gives you chills.
Yeah, yeah.
It's such a good show and they just started season 2, so we are super excited.
Oh, that's
But
so
we
fun.
actually do have a fun side. We just finished watching Ted Lasso, one of my favorite shows of all times, and
Yeah.
that's just it's so lighthearted. It's the exact opposite of me. It's lighthearted, it's wholesome, it's, inspirational.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but it's funny. Because I'm your friend and I know you as a friend, I feel like that is a part of who you are. I know you have like a dark, creepy kind of side, but you also have this very light, very fun, very she loves to be with her friends. She loves to hang out. She loves to have parties. Her and Steve just made this amazing gazebo in their backyard, and you're always having people over. So it seems
Yeah,
to
we do love
me
them.
for being kind of a quiet person, but you're also not. I'm trying to put you in a box and I can't, Shannon, and I love that.
I'll tell you what it is. It
Okay.
is highly social introvert, which is just
Ah,
kind of a weird thing.
yeah.
I love to be social and then I need to go hide in my cave. And I think you're kind of like that too.
Oh, yeah, I definitely am. And it's funny though, because I feel like for when I was deep in religion, I didn't allow myself the time to regroup because I was like, I need to be out there sharing the gospel so people don't die and go to hell. Like my whole life, it was my identity, is saving
Yeah,
people
yeah.
from hell. And so I think being able to embrace that part of myself, that introvert, it's like I'm being introduced to this person that I've known my whole life, but I haven't given her the time of day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, kinda like honoring that part of my personality, which I didn't even realize I had. I thought I was extreme extrovert until I deconstructed, which I guess brings me to my next question, Shannon. Let's talk about little girl Shannon growing up. Did you grow up in religion? How did all that start?
I did actually. We grew up in the LDS religion. I grew up in Nevada, and Nevada is primarily LDS. It's very close to Utah, and some of the surrounding states around here are highly LDS. And
Yeah.
we grew up that way. We had to go to church every single Sunday. I despised it. I'm not going to lie. The LDS church back then has changed a bit now, but back then it was about a 4-hour Sunday
Ooh.
ordeal. And so we'd have to get up at 9 in the morning. We wouldn't get home until 1 in the afternoon. I was always hungry. And it was just, moving from one room to the next to the next. And, I was a kid. But I'll actually tell you another weird thing about this that I always hated. When we went to church, I had to wear a dress. There was no way I could go to church in pants. And I was such a raging tomboy that I was totally embarrassed to go to church in a dress. Like I just was mortified to have to wear a dress anywhere. And
Mm.
and so that was actually like something that like really settled deeply in me as I started to sort of move away from the church. Like a lot of it had to do strangely with that dress. But there were other things.
Well,
I
yeah.
I was not the best church person. I didn't follow the rules very well. I never felt comfortable. I never, you know what? I never actually believed, I think. I
Mm.
never believed in it. I didn't believe in the foundation of the church. It didn't sit right with me. This whole Jesus came to America after he was resurrected. And that's when real religion started. And before he came to America, of all places in the world, religion didn't exist. And to me, or everything that happened before he came to America was not true religion. It
So
was
this is
false.
what the
Yeah.
LDS church
Yeah.
teaches.
That's what they taught.
Oh,
And
wow.
like, I was never a big history buff, but in my mind, I was like, wait a minute, are you telling me that religion is only real if it's in the last 200 years? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, it kinda does if you think about the American way of looking at life, like the world revolves around us, you know?
Yeah, it's
We
true.
have we have no clue. So, of course, it started with us. Everything did. Everything is amazing because of America, right?
Yeah.
Haha, I'm being sarcastic, but yeah, and I do. That
But
kinda makes
actually,
sense.
a funny thing with that, I was talking to my parents, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and we're talking about the biggest religions in the world, and they literally thought the LDS religion was the largest religion in the world, bigger than Muslim, bigger than Catholic, not kidding. And when I
Wow.
showed them the data, they were astounded. They were speechless, like they legitimately never would have thought that.
Wow.
So, you know, they lived in a small area, they've traveled very little, they just all around them, all they saw were Mormons, their entire lives.
Wow. That really it goes back to my favorite quote, by Mark Twain that talks about how travel is fatal to prejudice and bigotry and narrow-mindedness, because once you get out of your bubble and you see how big the world is, you start to go, like you
Yes, it
you
is
start to
so
wake up a
true.
little bit, you know what I mean? Is that what really got you away from religion, or when did you start kind of pulling away?
I can actually remember a pretty specific event. I had kind of a rough childhood growing up. I won't get into that so much, but when I turned 18, I left my mom the day of my 18th birthday. I walked out of the house with my stuff in a garbage bag. I was still in high school. I never wanted to see her or my family again. And I ended up moving in with this just horrible human being of a boyfriend, just a drug dealer, abusive, and I had no self-esteem. And we lived in this like the most disgusting apartment you've ever seen in your life.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't get it together. I couldn't hold a job. He was cheating on me regularly. I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have any money. I had no friends. Like somehow he had isolated me from all of my friends. I had nothing
Oof.
but him.
Red flag.
And
Red flag.
and every day I would pray. Even
Mm,
after I stopped going to church, I would pray. I needed God's help every day. And every day I couldn't nothing changed. Every day I would pray and say, "Please help me. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do." And then one day, the guy I was living with, Frank was his name, I came home and all of my stuff was outside the house. Just like he'd just thrown all of my clothes, what little stuff I had, were just scattered all out front of the house or the apartment. And it was kind of late at night, and I looked up at the sky and I said, "I am done with you. You have never done anything for me ever. My life has been miserable for all the time that I have been praying to you." And I quit. I never said another prayer after that. And you know what? My life got together. And I think it's because I was waiting for God to take care of me. And in doing that, I wasn't taking care of myself. And sure, I was young. And I don't think that everybody who is religious, puts everything in the hands of God,
right,
obviously.
yeah,
But I was
yeah.
18 at the time.
It's all
And
you
for
knew.
some reason, I just, like at that moment, I finally took some control of my own life. And I was able to prosper and succeed. And
Mm,
then I only kept succeeding after that. So
that's interesting.
it was such a mental turning point for me that I kind of never looked back.
It kind of lines up with kind of what I'm learning through even just this podcast and talking to people with different journeys is like the minute that you stop looking outward for
Yeah,
God and you start looking inward, not saying that we're God, but saying, okay, I need to figure this out for myself. That's
right.
when you sort of tap into like the reality of who you really are, which is, I believe, in my opinion, all of us have a divine spark. We're all here and breathing and planted into this incredible source. Um, Whether we believe it or it doesn't matter, but like that's how I feel. And I feel like until we realize that we have to start taking responsibility for who we are and the decisions that we make instead of constantly putting them on this person or this entity or whatever. I think that's how we actually find who we really are. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
I
Yeah.
mean, God helps those who help themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
I
think at
mean,
that time I had never heard that, and that didn't resonate with me until much later.
yeah. Well, it's funny. I remember being in evangelicalism and people are like, no, that is not scriptural. God helps those. It is a scriptural concept, but that actual saying is not in scripture. And I was like,
Right.
really? It's like, no, God is in control. Like I believed God controlled everything. Like we were just these puppets. which
Yeah.
didn't make sense to me because then I would be like, "But then why are we praying? Why are we trying to change what is going to happen anyway?" You know? And I think when I realized, well, if you're praying, you're just surrendering to whatever happens and you're taking responsibility for what you can do for this outcome and you're taking responsibility, giving responsibility to people who can take that responsibility. It's so different than just hoping that, I don't know, this providential hand will come and change it all if you
Right.
just pray hard enough. But then
Right.
when it doesn't happen, then what? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, God didn't answer my prayer." Kinda like what you said. Like, "I'm done with you. You're not answering any of these prayers." A lot of people get to that point, Shannon.
Yeah.
And it sounds
Yeah.
like that's when you got freed up to be Shannon, though.
I think so. I mean, that was such a turning point, and, I don't really think about the past very often. I've pretty much forgotten most of my early life, but man, that moment just sticks out so plainly. You know, it's like it's like I was, like I have this like vision that I was like this hunched over sobbing person, and then as soon as that happened, I like stood tall and the tears dried up. And I mean, I'm sure that wasn't it, but like kind of in my mind, that's how I picture it. It was
Yeah.
it was a pretty big event.
That's a defining moment in your life, letting go. So has that been
Yeah.
hard with your family, you letting go of the religion, or are they okay with it?
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, they really wanted. I mean, it wasn't just me. My sister and brother also turned away from religion pretty much right afterwards. But, all of us kids are kind of well traveled. And I think we just saw other things. And my brother and sister are definitely not atheist, but, they've experienced more of the world. And so they
Mhm,
see that there are other religions out there, other ways to be spiritual, other ways to connect with, some kind
mhm,
of higher purpose or higher entity that isn't necessarily a single religion.
mhm.
And, I appreciate that. But my parents they were okay with it. They wouldn't let me drink coffee in the house.
And now
That
you
was
do.
that was the most traumatic thing.
Yeah.
No coffee and no beer.
Oh, none when you went home to visit, so
Right.
you wow, that's
Much later in
interesting.
life, we started sneaking it in and drinking in the garage when us kids, gathered at our parents' house.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So how is your relationship with your parents now?
Excellent.
Oh,
Absolutely wonderful.
that's
Um,
great. I'm
my
so
mom
glad.
is 75 and is still goes to church regularly, is still highly engaged in her community, still
Mhm,
paying her 10% tithe every month, which bothers me.
mm.
But she made a comment to me like, I don't know, a couple months ago when she was out visiting. She said, most of the time I do not want to get up and go to church. But she said, I am afraid that if I stop now, I will lose everything that I worked for.
Mm,
As if God's going to say, oh, you didn't go to the church for your last year of life, all of a sudden you're kicked out of heaven. But I think the LDS religion and maybe a lot of religions, kind of believe that.
mhm.
If you turn away, you're done. You're going straight to hell.
Yeah, yeah. Does the LDS faith believe in hell? What is it like for them?
They do, but they really don't. It's really not talked about a lot in the church.
Mm,
They instead talk about their three levels of heaven. It's the celestial kingdom, which is at the absolute top. That's for the very good Mormons who have done everything right. Then there's the terrestrial kingdom, which is one level down. And then there's the telestial kingdom, which is where I am apparently going.
so is that hell or
No, it's just like the lowest level of heaven, and I'm not sure what perks we get in the celestial kingdom. Never been real clear on that.
So
But
if you were what is okay, I've heard of and I don't know, maybe because it's been so long for you, you don't remember. I've heard of them refer to hell as outer darkness. Is that correct, or do you know? You don't remember?
I don't remember. I
Yeah.
don't remember, but I remember thinking when I was a youngster that, "Oh, it's not so bad. I'm not gonna be in the celestial kingdom, but I'm definitely not gonna be in hell either." Because hell was only for, like, serial killers and,
Mm,
people like that were the
mhm,
ones who went to hell, and it was kind of like a small group. Most everybody who just wasn't a big believer in anything, but were good people on earth, would go to the celestial kingdom. So in
Mhm.
my mind, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. I'm not going to
Yeah.
be, eternally burning or
Yeah.
standing on my head in dog poop or something that I don't know.
Which might be better than burning forever, but I don't know, maybe not. I don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
Yeah, I think that I'm always just so curious, the beliefs of different religions. Because the thing that I think scared me so bad about where I was the thought of it's either heaven or hell. And
Right.
if you want to get to heaven and the road is very narrow and you have to do it this way. And if you want to go to hell, well, the road is wide to destruction. I just had somebody quote that to me the other day. I think insinuating that my butt is on its way there. But if you're really afraid and you really believe that that's true, it's incredibly motivating to continue into that belief, which, I don't know. Do you see people in
Actually,
religion different now or
just to kind of get back on that idea, I
yeah.
I believe the Mormon Church or the LDS Church have always been very loving. They have never used a scare tactic. Instead, they used a bribe tactic. They said, if you want to be with your family in heaven, you have to go to the celestial kingdom and you have to earn your way into that level. If you
Ah,
don't, you will be removed from your family and you will just be existing in these other two levels, which I really didn't understand the difference between the two of them. Um, and
mm,
so hell wasn't talked about because we were never, I was never scared. Never. I was never scared of going to hell. I was never scared of, an evil, angry God. It was never taught like that. It was always just love and an aspiration to try to achieve this highest kingdom level. I mean, I guess it is kind of a little bit cultish in
mm,
my mind. I mean, I think the LDS Church is a cult in my personal opinion, and I don't know what differentiates a cult from a religion. I think
yeah.
somebody once told me it's size.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Cults are small, religions are big.
Well, that's so interesting to me to hear the different perspectives, and I think that that's another thing that once you get out of your bubble, once you get out of like your comfortable place where everybody believes the same thing and you start kind of finding out what other people believe, you realize, somebody could be wrong here, or somebody could be right, or maybe they're all, I don't know. But you do start to realize how many different views there are, and every view
Yeah,
thinks they're the one true view.
yeah,
And yeah, and everyone is like, well, but the others are just wrong. It's like,
yeah.
okay, but they think you're wrong too. So I don't know.
Which
To me,
which was
it's
always that always never stuck with me either. What if you are born and raised in a religion? What if you're
mm,
born in a Muslim country and the only religion there is Muslim and you don't have a choice to do anything else?
right,
How should you be punished then if God placed you into that religion?
right. And why should you
It's
be punished because you believe something different? To me, that just
yeah,
seems silly. I feel
yeah,
like that, I don't know. And especially hell is so final, like you get no chance of being saved from it. Like it's just eternal suffering. It's like, well, what good is that? How is that helpful in rehabilitation? It's not. It's just cruel. It's
yeah,
you got it wrong.
yeah,
Now
right.
you're burning forever.
So
It's like,
sorry. Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
but my heart was right. My intentions were right. I just believed in something different. Like, how
Yeah,
would God look at that and just be like, oh, well, sorry, somatics. Ha ha ha.
yeah.
I don't know. So you living as an atheist is how do you like view religion now? How do you see it when you see somebody who's like fully into it?
Yeah, a really, really good girlfriend of mine, back in New Jersey, just recently, she was as atheist as me, like to the core. And we would sometimes, joke around about her family who was ridiculously religious. And she and I were both very health conscious and we, you know, worked out together and such. And she would go to her friends and say, listen, you need to work out more. You're not in good health. And they would say, oh, no, no, that's God's taking care of me. This, whatever God wants for me is what I'm going to get. And it frustrated her so much. And I don't know what happened. A year later, she is now baptized, spends all of her time listening to religious podcasts and, is doing nothing for health anymore, just had a complete switch.
Really?
And, like in my heart, it kind of broke because she was so intent on doing everything right for herself. And granted, she was, a little self-centered and a little self-focused and wanted the perfect body and not an ounce of fat and all that
Mhm.
stuff. And now she's just completely abandoned all the good, healthy stuff she did. She was eating right, and now she's just like, "Nope, my life is in God's hands."
Mm.
And I always wondered if maybe she just, like, reached a point where she didn't wanna do that anymore, and this was, like, a good way for her to stop being so intently focused on that
Yeah.
1% of fat or something. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. But I otherwise, like, in my mind, I'm just like, to each his own. What if that makes you happy? Like conversations that you and I have had so many
Mhm.
times.
Mhm.
If Jesus makes you happy, that's awesome and wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation with Ben, my youngest son. He's 22 now. And he was an atheist when he was 5 years old. He would go into kindergarten and tell kids that God didn't exist. And, the teacher would have to call me in and say, "Can you please tell him not to say that? That's,
Oh,
offensive to some
no.
people." And Ben is now finding Jesus. He's just
Really?
out of nowhere. And I said, "Is your girlfriend driving this?" And he's like, "No." He's like, I feel like something is empty inside me and
Mm.
I need to discover what that is." And he's like, I'm trying out some different things. I'm going to some different churches." And I'm like, "Honey, if that's what you need, that's great.
That's
Of course do
amazing.
that." Yeah.
Yeah. I remember feeling that too, and I remember actually preaching, and you hear it all the time in church, that there is a God-shaped hole in all of us, and until we, find the correct faith, which is the one I grew up in, of course, until you find that, it's gonna be empty. It's like a vacuum, and it sucks in, like, addictions and all these things. So you basically you're like, until you find God, you're restless. You can't figure it out until and he's the only one that can fill that hole. Like I remember teaching that and believing that. And do I still believe it? I think I do, but I don't look at it like it's dogma, like it needs to be this particular way. I do feel like we are built to seek something out. And if we
Yeah.
can't find that fulfillment in the physical, then it's important to look, to the spiritual and see if maybe that's what it is. And it looks different for different people, and I think the reason Jesus is so powerful is because he, I think, exemplified somebody who found that, you know, God-shaped yeah, he filled it with goodness and love and truth and wisdom and all the things, and so he's a good example of somebody who's like, well, he got it right. Um, it didn't go very well for him. You know, the systems, the empire did not love this, but his whole thing was the kingdom of God, which is, I believe, that whatever it is, that fills that hole, he's like, it's in you. And it's getting to know that part of yourself and honoring that. And
Yeah.
maybe that's what Ben's doing. I think that's really cool. That's so fun.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I hear what you're saying about a hole.
Yeah.
And I believe we have all felt that all through our lives. We have
Yeah.
had a hole and we choose different ways to fill it. Like you said, it can be filled
Mhm.
with addiction. I'm not going to lie. I like to have my drinks every night. But what I did notice is I noticed that in this past couple of years that I was too focused on me and everything had to be about me and what am I doing that makes me happy and how am I making me better? And I had like no external focus at all. And I felt that hole that you're describing like, there was something inside me that was missing. And I filled that hole with what I'm doing now with these
Mhm.
dance tutorials. It's like become I feel like God is in me in the way like in a way that would make sense to you. Like
Yeah.
something inside me is now shining outward.
Mm.
And I haven't felt that in a really long time. I mean, honestly, maybe since my kids, when when my whole world had to be revolved around my kids. And then once they went off and did their own thing,
Yeah,
then that kind of hole was filled, and or that hole, became a hole. And now it's, I feel really so much better with
that's
this. And
amazing.
you know, I,
You know what you're describing, Shannon, is purpose.
yes.
I
And a
I
purpose
think
that's, other than me.
me, yeah. But it
Which is
also helps you, which is I think why I like teaching fitness classes too,
yeah.
because it is helping other people, but it's also serving me well,
Yeah.
to
I
do that.
mean, honestly, it's not that much work when I'm actually doing something that I love so much.
Yes.
And then, trying to convince everybody else that they need to be doing it.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess it's kind of the same thing when you find religion or when you find Jesus. All you want to do is like, it's
It's
so
purpose.
overwhelming for you. And you
Mhm.
just want to get everybody else involved. Oh my God, I found this wonderful thing, join me in it, join me in it. And, many people have done that with finding Jesus or with religion. And I found it through teaching
Dance.
strangers how to dance.
That's beautiful,
But,
though. I think
it
that's
was the
kind of the
same thing.
point of living,
It was
is
like,
making an impact.
yes, exactly.
Just
And I think
being
especially as we get a little bit older and,
mm,
you know, things dry up, we're not focused on paying rent, like life changes a little bit. We have our feet under us, which sometimes takes decades to get that.
mhm,
The kids are out, I've lost that purpose. I'm no longer working. And, that can actually leave you feeling kind of like, why do I wake up every day?
mhm. And you found your why.
I found my why. Yeah.
That's beautiful, and I do kinda wanna talk a little bit about that empty nest thing, because I to me, that's when I found deconstruction. I think was, once my kids were gone and I had time to really start thinking about things and learning how to think critically, studying things like neuroplasticity and why people are so drawn to certain things. I just really went into a deep dive to try to understand the whys of everything. Like, why is this so important to me? And is it true or is it just what I've been taught? I don't know. And I do feel like empty nesting kind of kicked me into gear because I felt like I was let go from my favorite job ever,
Yeah.
you
Of
know?
course.
It
Yeah.
was an unwilling retirement.
Right.
And I had so much love to give and so much nurturing to give, and I just wanted to do that again. And so I started doing it for myself for the first time. And
Yeah.
I've been able to find my why again too. I think empty nesting can be really, really hard, but it can also be a huge, beautiful transition. And it sounds like you've embraced that.
Yeah. I have. I
Yeah,
mean, I love my kids. They're wonderful. I'm glad they're close by enough to visit
same.
frequently. And, as you know, we both love our life here in Northern Utah.
Mhm.
And, we just live in this beautiful, amazing place. And how can you not want to be your very best here in however you define that?
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. So what else do you like to do besides I know you like to write, and you like to dance, and you like to hang out and drink your drinks at night, but what else do you like to do, Shannon? Talk
Well,
about
I'm
your life.
not day drinking yet, so that's a
You're
good
not
sign.
Yay! That's good. That's important.
But my husband and I, we like to ski every now and then, although I've been out of it for a little bit for a knee replacement. We've got our 3 dogs who are just such a joy, and, we go hiking with them in the mountains. The air here is just beautiful to breathe. I don't know, I
Mm,
just living here just makes me feel alive. And but yeah, other than dance and social media and writing and my dogs and an occasional wave to my husband as we're crossing paths in the
yeah.
house.
Yeah, you're both
That's
very busy.
that's pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah, that's fun, and you like to throw parties too. They have
And
the
we like to throw
best,
parties. We have such a great neighborhood. We have the
don't
best
we
friends here.
though? I know.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. Like, I think a lot of my kids are considering moving to Ogden, and I was like, "Maybe we should move to Ogden," and I was like, "Wait, no, I can't leave these people." I love my
You
I
better
love
not.
my family friends, that's what I
I
call
will
you
be
all.
so mad at you if you leave me.
But I did consider it for a minute. And Rob was
Ogden
like,
Ogden is a pretty place, though. I really like it
well,
there.
it's a little cheaper, and
Yeah,
like the kids, that's why the kids want to live there. It's a little cheaper and you get a lot more house for the, bang for your buck there. So I don't blame them, but I think I'm going to have to stay here because,
yeah,
when the kids come, we've got enough room for them. And then, my friends and, my friends here are like my family.
yeah.
I genuinely love every single person in my life, including you and Steve. As a matter of fact, if you're listening, Steve, last year when I was having heart issues, um, I knew he was home at the time. He was like in between jobs. And so in the middle of the day when I had a pass out, like I passed out and kind of came to, he was the first person I called and he was here within 3 minutes and took me into the, emergency room. And then my husband met us there. But like, that's the kind of friends these people are. Just amazing. And
Yeah. Steve is about the greatest guy I've ever met.
yeah, he's pretty great, and you're pretty great too, and you make a good team, but
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think what's been really cool, Shannon, is that, like, I am at a place in my life now, and this is maybe why everybody feels so close. I feel like I'm finally learning how to connect with human beings on, like, a human level instead of
Worrying about their souls every
yes.
second.
Yes, I
Yeah,
think I'm able to just love. And when I talk to people, I'm like, I have friends who are atheists. You're that friend. I have friends who are LDS or who have left LDS or I have evangelical. I have it doesn't matter. We don't look at what's different about us. We bond on what's common. And I think learning to do that has been one of the most freeing things. And you've been a big part of that, Shannon. You
it's such a great thing because imagine how you would be blocked in if all you were allowed to love and people to spend time with were the people who were exactly like you.
Mhm.
Or imagine how, if I said, "Well, if you're not a shuffle dancer, there's no way we can be friends." Like it's just ridiculous to think that. And, everybody, I love my religious friends. I
Mhm.
love talking to them. We all have such a different perspective, and yet we're all so core together. We're human and we're social and we're communal. And I don't care who you worship. I don't care who you have sex with. I don't care any of that stuff. If you're I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care how you describe your gender. None of that matters to me. I don't care what your political views are. And political views are so divisive these days, as
Oh,
we
yeah.
all know. And it doesn't matter to me at all. Do we like to hang out? Do we like to share a glass of wine together? I guess it's taken me a long time, and I know it's taken you a long time too, to just get to this point where, you know, and it's sad that it's so late in life, but it's okay. We can all coexist. We can.
I remember seeing that bumper sticker when I was even in evangelical, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're so lost. They're so deceived." Like, I was so
Yeah.
judgmental about everything, and I didn't even realize it. I felt like I was protecting my faith, but really I was exposing my bigotry. I was exposing my disdain for anything that didn't support my beliefs. And I did. I pushed people away who weren't like me and drew people in who were. It was just easier to be friends with people. And it's funny because people will say to me, "Well, maybe the reason that you've, left religion is because you were around a bunch of heathens." And they've pulled you off the table. I remember that analogy. I was always taught like it's easier for you to be pulled down than for you to pull someone up. So basically you're higher than everyone.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be friends with people who are way down there, they're going to pull you down. And so people would say, you're probably like this because you're around people. And I'm like, yes and no. Like I'm finally just like realizing that I'm not up on a table. That's an illusion. That I'm right here in the pit with everyone else. Trying to find my why, trying to find my purpose. And we're all like when you can just love those people instead of look at them as somebody who would pull you down. If you're feeling like somebody will pull you down, that means you think you're higher than them. That's a red flag.
And you know what? That is exactly the opposite of Christ. The
Right.
opposite.
Mhm.
Christ, he was below everybody.
Mm,
He was a grassroots prophet, so to
yeah,
speak. And he there was nobody he excluded. He never did. I mean, that was if I learned anything in my church days, it was that about Christ, which also kind of bothered me because LDS church does the same thing. If you're not LDS, you're not worthy. You're, a different you're different, you're less than we
mhm,
are. And I have yet to find very many churches that say we we truly love everyone.
mm.
Everyone is welcome here, whatever your belief system is. And I know they exist, and I'm actually really happy. I think that's starting to become more of a
It is.
trend in the world of spirituality
Yeah.
and lovely. But oh man, these older churches, especially the fire and brimstone. Steve was raised fire and brimstone
Mm,
and a very evangelical type of church, Lutheran in the Midwest, and that's pretty much what they all were. But he kind of grew up with those same beliefs of A, I have to watch every step I make or I'm going straight to hell. And B, people who don't go to my church, I shouldn't hang out with you. You're going to bring me down.
right. Right.
Yeah,
And when you finally
it's
see
sad.
it for the for how gross it is, you're like, "How
Yeah.
did I fall for that? How did I do
Yeah.
that?"
Yeah.
Like, and then you start to go, "Can I ever trust myself again?" Because I really was in. I was all in. And I'm realizing that, yeah, I can trust myself again. There's hope. And I know there are people who might be listening who are like, "You don't understand. The people in my life, they're never gonna see." And they may not, but there's always hope. I do think if we get out of our comfort zone, if we surround ourselves with people who see life different, things start to open up, and it's not because they're
Yeah.
bringing you down. It's because they're pulling you in. They're showing
Yeah.
you who they really are, and when you
And they're
see
widening your perspective. And,
yes.
who wants to live in this narrowly defined world? I love I love the differences we have all over this
Yeah.
planet.
Yeah, and I think embracing that is part of, like, embracing this whole human journey, this whole experience that we get to have. I mean, how
Yeah.
lucky are we that we exist at the same time, Shannon? And
I
that we,
know.
we're like just a few houses away from each other. It's just
Yeah.
amazing to me. And when you think about like the chances of that happening, it blows your mind. And you could miss it 100%
Yeah.
if you're just focusing on being connected with people who believe and see things exactly the way you do.
Yeah.
And oh, I wish I could explain that better. Here's what I know, Shannon, and this is what's so frustrating for me because I know so much about scripture and I know what I was taught. There is a scripture that, says the way is narrow and the road to destruction is wide. And so in a way, when I tell people, you don't understand, if you could just stop thinking so narrowly, immediately they think, oh, you're on your road to destruction. And that how do you argue with that when that's how they're interpreting a scripture? And,
Yeah.
I it's frustrating. And if you look at religion, that's not very narrow. There's so many religions that think they're right. So maybe the
Yeah.
narrow is just the fact that it's hard to break away from thinking that you are the only one who's getting it right, you and your people. There's so many people who've bought into the fact that their religion is the only way and that are acting like they're up on the table and everybody's below. To me, that road seems much wider than the people who are realizing we're all in this together. We're all connected.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree. Oh, I just lost my whole train of thought.
It never happens to me. No, I'm just kidding.
I had
Guys,
a
we're in
really
our
good
mid 50s. Give us a break.
had a really good thought too, damn it.
Yeah. Damn, I'm so sorry, Shannon.
I'll see if it comes back around.
Well, I was like it's funny, I was chasing a thought, like, I had a thought, and I was like, "If I just keep using words, I'll get there." I couldn't figure out what I was trying to say, but I think in a way, like, the narrow way is realizing you don't need religion.
Yeah,
That's what I
I
believe
think
now.
so.
But
And,
before
and here was my thought. I don't believe in a higher power, as you know,
mhm,
but if I were to believe in a God, and if I were to listen to what I've read in scripture, because I have read the Bible, I don't, other than the Old Testament, which I think is incredibly outdated, but at the time that might have been the thinking and that might
Mhm.
have been fine. I mean, as we know, we change our thinking over the course of time.
As
But
we
if I
learn.
did believe in a God, I can't imagine that God wouldn't love me or accept me for being just a good person. I'm a good person. I do nice things for people. And I know a lot of people who are deeply religious will say, it doesn't matter how many good things you do in this life,
Mhm.
you're going to hell. And the same thing is true. It doesn't matter how many bad things, the people who come to my church every week do, they're going
Mhm.
straight to heaven.
Yeah.
That never sat right with me.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, it doesn't set right with me now, but I do remember saying there's going to be a lot of really good people burning in hell. I remember saying that. There's going to be a lot of deceived people who think that they have it right because they're good people and they're going to go to hell. It's like that, but and it all makes sense until you think about it. And then when you think
Yeah.
about it, you're like, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. It might be quote biblical if you look at a Bible and you define it the way that you're taught in certain religions, but it can be looked at in other ways too. And when you start realizing that, you're like, "Oh, okay. All right."
Yeah.
I think that the key is to me, it's like, okay, I don't know what religion is right, if any are wrong or I don't know. But I do think there was something about Jesus. There was something that we're still talking about him 2000 years later.
Yeah.
So I want my life to look like his because I feel like he got something right.
I totally agree. And
Mhm.
actually, I love Jesus. I love the concept. I love everything that's written about him. I love the kind of person he is. And to be completely honest, I hope that I am perceived to be Jesus-like.
Christ-like. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
even if I even if I think he's just a story, and I don't actually, I think he's a real person. I think the Bible was written on by real people. And I think he just exemplified all the beautiful things in the world at the time.
Mm.
And, he is an example of how to be. You know, if you behave like Jesus, you'll be such a wonderful human being.
Maybe 2000 years later, people will still be talking about you. Who
Yeah,
knows?
right.
It is because he genuinely
Yeah.
connected and loved everyone. And even in his harsh words to the religious system, I mean, the only time he yelled and got angry and flipped over tables was when he was talking to religious people who were telling people that they needed this and this and this in order to be, connected to God, or, if you don't do this, you're not being loved by God. It's people putting things in
Right.
the way.
They
That's the
twisted
only
it.
one, but
They
he
twisted it.
didn't do that to be ugly. He did that to help them see, but they
But
wouldn't
that's
see.
not what it was about. Right.
Yeah, but they didn't see it, and they didn't like it, so they killed him.
And
So
here we are, 2000 years later, still doing the same thing. We just don't
exactly.
happen to have, Christ walking the earth and somebody to hang, but people mentally hang other people all the time.
Scapegoats. Mhm. The scapegoats are everywhere, for sure, and we love to feel like we are on that table and everybody else is below us, and
Yeah.
I think the message of Jesus was, "There is no table, let's flip it over." And if we could just get that, right, Shannon? It's just really not that difficult, but we
If
make it so
everybody could just
difficult.
get that. Yeah.
Maybe one day. A girl can dream.
I don't know. I see a lot of like pop-up churches coming up that are kind of like that. They're not preaching anything specific. They're just like, I'm just creating a gathering for people who want to come and worship. That's it. And they do it in a fun way. They're not worried about whether you have to wear a dress to go to church. It's not, you don't have to follow these specific things and do this type of praying exactly, and make sure that you're spending your tithe money in this way. That's none of that. It's
Mhm.
just, let's gather and get a group of people who all just want to worship. And honestly, I think that's pretty lovely. I
Yeah.
see that as kind of a trend, and that's the greatest way, in my opinion. I don't like religion at all. I think the greatest way, if you are a believer, is to just do it that way.
Mhm.
Pray to your own God in your way. Do whatever you want to do for yourself, and, gather in a community of people who may have their own way, just to have community
Mm.
because we do crave that, don't we?
We do.
And I,
I think it's part of that void, you know?
yeah, I think so too.
It gives you purpose. It gives you and it also gives you people to lean on in the hard times. One of my biggest fears when I left evangelicalism was, "Oh my gosh, like where are my kids going to get married? Who's going to do our funeral if we die?" Like all of the things that were kind of life-defining moments,
Yeah.
we're all tied to that community. And I'm realizing, there are so many other alternative ways to be able to have that community. It's called intention. It's called making an effort
Making an effort. Yeah, of
and
course.
find your people.
Find
They're
your
there.
people. I
They're
say that
there.
all the time.
Yeah.
And here, like you were saying, I could never move from this neighborhood. This is where my people are.
Yeah.
I get it is such a great community. And, I don't even know what religions our people are in our neighborhood. I really don't. I
Oh,
don't
I know
care and I
all of
don't
them.
ask.
Everybody
Actually,
tells me that. They're all because they know what I do. They're like, "Oh, but so I'm this and I used to be this." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so fascinating." But, so if you need to know, no, I'm kidding. I won't
okay.
gossip. I won't do it.
I'll know who to go to. But I just think it's all okay. We just all
Yeah.
enjoy each other and
Yeah.
I don't have to exclude anybody.
Mm-mm.
If the LDS people want to come over, I love to have them. I will happily put non-alcoholic drinks,
Yeah.
in the cooler for them. Welcome.
Diet
Everybody is
Pepsi or
welcome.
Diet Coke and,
Yeah,
yeah, Dr. Pepper. Yeah, they love their soda. It's
they
so
do.
funny. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And I hope, my hope is that this conversation has been an encouragement to other people as to like just think a little bigger. Like just expand your thinking, not asking you to leave anything. I'm really kind of just asking you to just think through the human impact of some of the ways that you might be seeing things that are excluding people just based on their beliefs. And and instead ask some questions. Pull those people in. What can they teach you? Not like,
Yeah.
oh no, they're going to
Not
deceive
taking you
me.
down a dark road or,
No.
opening the path straight to hell. None of that.
Mm-mm.
No,
Mm-mm.
I think everybody has goodness inside them, and we have something to learn from everybody.
Mhm. And
And
there's a reason that we're in each other's lives, you
yeah,
know?
that's
I
right.
I I I really believe that. I think everybody who's in your life has a purpose in it and, or they wouldn't be there. So,
Yeah,
like, find out what it is. Don't push them away just because they see things different.
that's right.
That could be the beauty of why they're in your life. So you can see things a little different. It's like putting
Yeah,
glasses on, learning a new language, whatever. It's all beautiful. Anyway,
yeah.
I hope it's been an encouragement for you if you're listening, to just hear the heart. It's funny. I used to even the word atheist makes me feel weird because like it was so evil
It's
to
very
me.
definitive, it is.
It's
And a lot
well,
of
it was
people
so
won't
evil to
say it.
me.
They'll say, "I'm agnostic," but they won't cross over that little line to
Yeah.
atheism. It's like, "Well, just in case, I'm just,
Yeah. I just
just in
remember
case I'm wrong,
thinking,
I wanna make sure that God knows I'm really still on his side."
yeah, I know he could be real, there's
Yeah.
always a chance. Hopeful agnostic, I hear that a lot. And the truth is I am not an atheist, but I kind of am when it comes to the God that I was taught about. I don't believe that God exists. I don't think there's this angry, fiercely punishing God who wants to throw me in hell because I said a prayer wrong or didn't believe the right way. I
Yeah,
think I think God wants me to embrace this life and the people that I believe God brings into my life to enrich it. And it is richer now. And I can't deny that. I, I wish I could explain it. And it's so hard because I know that if I still have people listening who are evangelical, which they've probably dropped off a long time ago, but if I do, I just want you to understand I am not trying to bring people into my new religion. I don't have a new religion. I'm not trying to deconvert. I'm trying to help people see the humanity all around you that just needs to feel loved, not judged. That doesn't need to be preached to. That needs you to maybe listen to them, you know?
And just be a friend,
Yeah,
you
just
know,
trust that.
just reach out and be a friend.
See what happens.
Be the person that Jesus was and wants you to be.
Period. I love that. Well, okay, Shannon, your books. I just want to tell people, like, if you like a dark, creepy kind of science fiction, right?
A little bit of cult,
A little bit of
but
cult.
definitely some kind of scary medical concepts.
Yes. Then you need to go check out Shannon's books, and I'll put some links in the show notes. But the Colony series, she wrote the Pain Colony first, and then it was the Rage Colony. What's the
That's right.
next one going to be called? Do you know yet?
I think it's gonna be called The Colony's Salvation. I
Ooh.
know, that's a title you
Oh,
would
I
like.
just got chills. It's gonna be so fun. I like the way that you are taking the things that were so scary to you, and you're like, just being like, "I'm not afraid of you. As a matter of fact,
There is
I'm gonna write about
without a
you."
doubt. I mean, all of my religious deconstruction definitely comes out in these books because I really put kind of a dark spin on religion
Yeah,
throughout.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it
it's
can
been
be
really
dark.
fun, but,
I think a lot of the
I
wars that have been fought have been because of religion.
Y oh, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah, so
most of them, yeah,
well,
horrible.
I'm excited. I hope that you'll check out her books, and also, you know what? Especially if you're in midlife and you're just you know your body needs to move. You don't if you don't use it, you lose it. We know this. Make sure you check out Shannon's page. She's on Instagram and YouTube, Midlife Shuffle, and you
Yep.
will find her older ones on TikTok. So, thank you, Shannon. I honor your
Thank you,
journey, my
Leslie,
friend.
this was
It was
such a
so
fun
fun. It
such
was
fun.
just like our lunch date with you. This is what
Yeah.
we talk about, guys. We talk about all this stuff all the time. And I walk away with a big smile and I'm like, how in the world have I lived my whole life not knowing you until the last few years? Like, it's just been so fun.
It has. Thank you, my
Mm.
friend.
Thank you.